Welcome to the Inspiration Cafe. We're going to be speaking with and listening to Richard Green, Vice President, Association Sales and Industry Relations, Marriott International. Richard, welcome.
Thank you.
Good to have you at the cafe.
Thanks, it's good to be here, Bill.
Now,
Appreciate
just to
it.
get us started,
Sure.
the outlook from Marriott's perspective for the business, meetings and events in particular.
Oh, well, 2013 looks to be a really good year. You know, we've continued growing the business since 2009. Obviously, 7 and 8 were treacherous years in the hotel business. But the group industry has really rebounded well, associations in particular. Great demand from the corporate segments. I mean, we're looking at being able to raise our rates, which meeting planners don't necessarily like to hear, but we're looking at being able to raise our rates in the 5 to 7% range this year. So it should be a great year for a public company like Marriott and their investors.
And in all fairness, when you say raise your rates, you're kind of getting back to where you were.
Yeah, exactly.
In some ways,
exactly. 2006, 2007 were benchmark years.
Right.
And although occupancy achieved those years last year, rates certainly didn't. So we're in recovery mode still.
Right. And are you seeing, Richard, more shorter meetings or more of the same meetings? Is there any different?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big changes, you know, time is the new commodity. It's not so much the dollar. So meetings are a little bit shorter than they were in the past. Several years ago, meetings averaged 3.5 nights. Now they're about 2.8 nights, so we're seeing that change. They're just basically being right-sized. If there's enough content for a longer meeting, then a longer meeting is great and is doing well. But they're shaping that content to fit a shorter time span because that's all people are willing to give up from their daily lives.
So meetings now are as long as they need to be.
Exactly, yeah.
And what kinds of things are you doing, if anything, to keep people on site? Because I understand I hear that's pretty important when you get a group in to try to keep them on the property if you can.
Yeah, we obviously want them to stay within the room block, eat at the hotels, those kinds of things. So you want to make that hotel the center of that particular meeting. If it's a convention center activity, don't ignore what's going on. This is my advice to meeting professionals. Don't ignore what you're doing at those hotels, those host hotels, because your members will easily look for a cheaper rate outside your block if they're not seeing any perceived value of staying in one of your key headquarters hotels. So make a sense of community, bring your association brand into the hotels, make sure there's networking opportunities 24/7 that are going on in your hotels to keep people there. And we'll help by discounting some food and beverage along the way, setting up some special cafes for just your own association activities, those kinds of things.
So there's a lot of special interest stations you can set up in the
Exactly,
property.
and that appeals to the multi-generations that are attending meetings. It might appeal to some of the special interest groups within an association.
And I understand ROI is becoming, or ROE or whatever the acronym is becoming more important in terms of, and we know cost is one component of ROI. What's the other component?
Yeah, I think it's really a return on time invested. You know, we were talking about the
ROTI,
commodity.
okay, right.
Yeah, so people make that decision on whether they're going to attend a meeting, not just by what they see in a particular program, online on a program, but who they're going to run into. You know, what can they get out of physically traveling? And we all know travel is so much fun these days. What can they gain out of physically traveling to be on site at a face-to-face meeting that they can't gain just through the use of pure technology? So once they understand that and they know that they've had a great experience at a meeting, they're going to keep coming back because of who they've met or how they've advanced their own particular issues, missions, businesses, research, if it's science or those kinds of things. Maybe they've made a good hire or maybe found a new job or those kinds of things. So they will measure their willingness to attend face-to-face meeting on past experiences.
It, to me, illustrates that properties, like all other things, have to adapt to what is these profound changes that are taking place in the way we interact, the way we communicate, and the way we work.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think this generation is getting less and less tolerant of attending a meeting where it's just talking heads. They want to be able to interact with the content. They want to be able to interact with each other about the content. So in the olden days when a scientist could get up in front of a general session and present to 3,000 people, everyone would leave and then go to the next gig. Those days are over. You've got to figure out how to be able to relate to that content and how to be able to talk to each other about that content as soon as it happens. So obviously what we're seeing is people tweeting during conferences, seeing text polling and tweet polling right on the general session stages and being able to react to that as we saw in yesterday's general session. So a huge intersection of technology and face-to-face.
Are you seeing an observable difference in planners in general, in terms of thinking strategically or how to define
God.
value? Or
Huge difference. And the good thing is, and there are a lot of senior planners out there, the good things is there are a lot of new young blood coming into the planning profession. And what they're bringing with them is their experience, comfort with technology, their experience level and how they've interacted with their colleagues in face-to-face. So they're bringing that into their meeting experience. In the olden days, oh God, I've been selling to associations for some 32 years. The great meeting planners of the world were key logistics partners. I mean, they understood how to get 3,000 people from here to there, feed them, get them a cup of hot coffee on the way, and that was it. They didn't really worry too much about the content because an education department kind of on the other side of the hallway was dealing with that. Now we're seeing blended education and meeting planning jobs are combined. No longer can the meeting planner not deal with the meeting experience. And in order to deal with that meeting experience, you have to look at everything from start to finish, including all the content and how that content's presented. So planners have gotten far more strategic because they've needed to on the experience side, but also because of the importance of the revenue that big meetings bring to an association.
One last question.
Sure.
You have an open channel to all the planners, corporate and association. Is there a message you'd like to send in terms of, on behalf of all hoteliers worldwide, please don't, or please do, or any message at all in terms of ways that would make it easier for you to work with them?
Sure. Well, first of all, I want to say that I think we're all on the same page to know that the importance of face-to-face meetings has to be a responsibility that all of us are responsible for. I mean, the positive impact of face-to-face meetings. So I would implore everyone to get on the bandwagon of talking about what really happens at face-to-face meetings, how problems are solved, how business issues are solved, how government issues are discussed. Without a face-to-face meeting, we wouldn't get a resolve to the fiscal cliff issues or any of the government issues. So I think the last year and a half, meetings have taken a bad hit, much to some of the government oversight issues, and warranted. Some of the excess that was spent in government meetings is deplorable and should be approached that way. But the real issue is we all have a responsibility to promote the value of face-to-face meetings. I think, in closing, the key is that we have to make sure that we understand each other's business goals, and we want to be able to work closer together on those business goals rather than as two partners across the table. We need to be on the same side of the table and help each other advance our issues and goals.
Another example of face-to-face.
Exactly.
It works on all levels.
It does, Bill.
Richard Green, Vice President, Association Sales and Industry Relations, Marriott International. Richard, thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thanks for
Appreciate
having me.
it. Revisit the Inspiration Cafe whenever possible.